While we wait for that, let's take a look at the rest of this whole area that is off camera. And it is off camera for a reason. You'll see once I turn the camera. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, your resonance cascade failure of automotive science. This video we're going to be working on my 1976 Triumph TR7. If you have been following my garage series, you'll remember that I said I had to get this thing out of the way so that I can bring the Maverick over and have the Maverick taken off site to prepare for huge construction efforts for my garage. The TR7 starts and runs, but it does not stop. I did some work on the rear brakes, but the front brakes still need a lot of work. And by that, I mean they need entirely new rotors and calipers. It's bad. It's really bad. So I have ordered that. They are due to be in later today. And I want to get a jump on this by, first of all, taking my workbench out of commission. And then I want to get a start on removing the old brakes so that when they come in, we waste no time and we get this thing actually kind of running and driving, sort of. Wow. So a quick recap about this project overall. This TR7 is, it's really bad. And in case you can't tell, it's got a lot of rust. There's rust everywhere. There's holes in the floor. There's, this car is just never going to be a show car. So I decided I want to have as much fun with this thing as possible. So this car, the eventual goal is to be a cyberpunk tribute type of car. It is going to be just as cyberpunk as I can make it. It's going to be radical, it's going to be weird, it's going to be stupid, and I'm going to do every dumb thing I've ever wanted to do to make a ridiculous car. And I actually wanted to start that with the brakes. However, I also have to play this smart. This garage project is going to cost me pretty much every dollar to my name. And that means I have to kind of, put the brakes on my ambitions, so to speak. You see what I did there. And so this project, I'm only going to do the rotors, calipers, and brake lines. But in the future, I want to do something really stupid. Let's go handheld and I want to show you what I got in mind. All right, so under the hood, we've got a bunch of brake lines in the brake master cylinder, reservoir, brake booster. So in this car, I want to do something really dumb with the brakes. Dumb as in like, not to make it more dangerous, but dumb as in completely unnecessary. I want to get a brake booster from a 2019 Accord, and that is the electric brake booster. And so why do I want to get a electric brake booster? First of all, it's gonna have a remote reservoir which I can mount up here and feed into the line over here. So there's plenty of space for it. There is actually a lot of space for it. But also, I want an electric brake booster so that it doesn't matter what the engine is doing. I can flip on the brakes and back this car down the hill. Because then I'll have full braking pressure just with the battery. And of course that's going to mean doing some wiring. But in order to implement this brake booster, I'm also going to want to do a proportioning valve to the rear wheels. And that is because I am planning to upgrade the rear with a disc brake in the rear with a new rear end. I think I'm going to use the one that was given to me by the previous owner from a Volvo. I have no idea what the gearing is on it, but I want to run the proportioning valve inside the car. You see, in here, there is just a ton of room for such a small car, and there is going to be a ton of room to put a proportioning valve. I want to try to position it somewhere here, maybe right here, just out of the way so that I don't interfere with it while I'm driving, but so that I can reach down and tighten up the rear end so that I can do some drifting, or loosen it so I can do brake stands. just to do really, really, really dumb things. So if I want to do an electric brake booster, that also means I have to get a start on my electrical setup. And in here, there is a ton of room for switches pretty much wherever I want. And in fact, these tabs might be really great for hanging, I could pull this out and replace it with a switch panel all the way across. That would be really, really cool. Switches, screens, whatever I need, I can put up there. And that's probably what I would do. I would probably put it up here with the brake switch and fuel pump and all of that stuff. But that means I would have to run all of that wire. I'd have to run all the circuits and the relays and the fuses and do a whole lot more work than I actually have time for. Let's go to the trunk and I can show you just what I'm working with when it comes to the battery. Actually, no, I can't go to the trunk because it is a workbench. So let's just get right into it. First thing I have to do is decommission my workbench and put the seats in the Prelude. I guess I'm working on other projects today as well. And let's just get right into it. If you thought the crowbar was just a prop to make a Half-Life reference, you're wrong. We actually need it here. So this adapter okay, yeah, that's safe. All right. Let's make this a little more safe. Bring the car down on the frame rails. And try that again. This is the thing I do not like about these spacers and spacers in general. There we go. That will work. All right. Of course, I put the lug nuts on the post so I don't ruin the threads. That's like, not fucking up your car 101 right there. There we go. All right. Now this thing will come off. So what we have here is a very, 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 very rusty rotor. Caliper isn't in any better condition. This is apparently some kind of a Volvo caliper, and it was modified to fit, but it doesn't quite fit, according to the previous owner. And just looking at the condition of this whole contraption here, this all needs to come off. This is really, really bad. So I'm going to, at the very least, do the rotor and caliper. And I don't know what else I'm going to do from there. I'm actually not entirely sure how to... I think I have to remove it by popping this off right here. So I'm probably going to have to do the same thing that I did with the spacer and put lug nuts on these posts and pry these bolts off. So this is probably for the hub. So that goes on to hold the rotor on, a very rusty rotor. And then we have the caliper that goes around it. I'm going to go ahead and wait until I get the new hardware before I start taking all of this apart, because this is a little janky. And then we have this hard line here, which looks like it goes into the caliper. There's a T-fitting here. This is definitely some custom work that I'm probably going to remove. there is a new brake line that came in with my hardware that I ordered. So that I'm hoping I just replaced from here directly to the new caliper. Well, the parts have arrived from the wedge shop, and as you can see, I've already got them on the car. Just kidding, that was a dumb joke. I hope I never make that stupid joke again. Yeah, so you might notice that this is a Rock Auto box. I actually did a double take myself when it arrived, but I opened it up, and sure enough, it has brake parts in it. And so then I took a closer look at the label, and it is indeed from the wedge shop. So we've got brake lines, and we've got another brake line. Let's go ahead and cut these open. I'm going to do a little unboxing for you guys. So I am going to tag the Wedge Shop's YouTube channel, and hopefully they watch it. All right, so we've got some hard lines, actually. So these are probably, it looks like an adapter line or of some sort. I'm assuming because the new calipers have a different size than the old something-a-roo. I don't know. And then these are Goodridge, okay. Steel braided brake lines for the front and for the flex line in the rear. I'm not sure which is which. If they are the same or if they're different, but here that is. I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in the box because there's a bag of nuts in there. Really wanna hold on to my nut sack. Sorry. No, I'm not. And now this is the goods. Let's crack this open. This is what I'm excited about. Now I have Wilwood calipers on two of my cars. I swear this is only the third. And I've always been really happy with them. And these are the TR7 brake calipers. And this is way bigger than this stupid little car needs. And hey, it's actually color matched to the car. This is so cool. They're lightweight, 4-piston, and looks like a really good design. This is obviously the important TR7 part. This is going to be some, generic Wilwood part number, but this bracket is what makes it adaptable to the TR7. So that's the good stuff, and then we've got some stickers to make the car go faster. I am obviously putting stickers on my TR7. I mean, that's a dumb thing to do, right? Put a bunch of stickers on your car? You know that means I'm doing it. All right, so we got pads. Good. And then this is the other caliper. We already know what they look like, so we're going to set that aside. And lastly, the heavy thing. Oh, there's one more thing in this box. A couple more things in this box. They gave me their Rock Auto magnet. Thank you, Wedge Shop. I needed another magnet. Here you go, Wedge Shop. This magnet you gave me, I'm just going to put it right there. So we have now the proportioning valve. I'm not going to put this on right away. I'm going to set this aside and put it on at a later date because I want to run this in the cabin, which is going to mean a lot of custom work to the brake lines. And now, lastly, we've got the rotors. These are really, really nice. They're Brembo blanks, I assume. Nothing terribly special about them. They are blanks. They are not cross-drilled or slotted because I think the type of driving I do, I'm not like, competition rally driver or anything like that. And if that changes, if I have problems with the brakes later on, I'll address it at that time. But until then, I'm going to stick with what I know. And what I know is that these have more surface for the brake pads to grab. So next up is the part that I'm probably going to hate, and that is to disassemble this rusty mess right here. Oh, God.
'cause I'm suffering from a power trip. Power trip now. Conflagrations ran all throughout your abdomen. Thoughts of fratricide, living way down deep inside. Murder and you okay? Now there is no escape. See the sparkle in your eye as you watch his love aside. In a grip you never slip, 'cause I'm suffering from a power trip.
Well, I figured it out. It turns out that the problem was, well, me. But actually, in reality, the hub and the old brake rotor were so rusted that I couldn't tell where the hub ended and where the brake rotor began. So that made it really hard to know where to separate it. I actually ended up taking it to my press over there and pushing out the hub from inside the brake rotor. And then once I got that on, I realized I had to bend the shield back quite a lot because it was hitting really hard. And now that I have this all back together, I mean, I wanted to record it for you guys, but my battery died and I didn't want to stop. But I saved the best for last because I have no idea if this caliper is going to fit. Let's find out. I have an idea. I'm going to pop this off first, get this adapter bracket on, and then work with the caliper because I think I can bring you in here. I'll bring you in. All right, so if you see this right here, that might need to be massaged a little bit in order to fit the bracket because the bolt goes in through the back, through the caliper bracket, and then into the other side where it threads up. So that's what I'm going to have the most trouble with. And so I'm thinking if I separate the, I'm thinking if I separate this bracket from the caliper, I can work with this bracket. I can get a little rough with it without worrying about damaging the caliper, and then be able to go from there. I also think I want to take all of this off anyway because I want to take care of the rust that's on this dust shield. I want to pop it off, clean up the rust, put it back together, and clean up the wheel well a little bit. Clean it up, put some rust neutralizer on it, and coat it. It took a little bit of coercing, but I got it to fit. So I had to grind at the bracket for the bracket. I opted to grind at the back piece because back here I'm not going to affect where the caliper lines up with the rotor. This, I mean, if they told me to cut it off entirely, I wouldn't even have a problem with it. I've never had a car where the caliper fits like that. So whatever, it's fine. I got this to work. Took a little bit of grinding and a little bit of hammering, but it all fit. It'll probably never, ever come out of here, but it's fine. The only unfortunate part is that I am not going to be treating this for any kind of rust repair or anything like that, at least not yet. I'm going to take care of that when I do the shocks, when I do ball joints, that sort of thing, because it would all have to come apart, and that is a much bigger project than I have the bandwidth for at this moment. Right now, I am just going to take care of this dust shield, obviously put that all back together, and then I'm going to hit the wheel well because that's all pretty low-risk stuff. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do about the fenders yet because I may just get new fenders. because these fenders are not very good. So I probably won't do anything to the fenders. It's just going to be to the wheel well. So I've removed the dust shield, hit it with the wire wheel, and sprayed it with rust neutralizer. I don't care as much about this because this doesn't even look like the original part anyway. Just look how bent that is. It's not that I, want to completely throw it away, but using this, a couple coats of primer, and some flat black will be just fine for me. I don't need to be fancy on my dust shield. Down here, I have finished wire wheeling everything that I care to wire wheel. You see, I've got the majority of it cleaned up well enough, and all of the important spots I've exposed and knocked off all of the loose rust. Now I am going to use a rust encapsulator, and this is actually going to be a brush on. Where did I put it? Over here. This is actually a brush on rusty metal primer meant for priming rusty metal. Go figure. So I'm going to brush that on, probably maybe a couple of coats of that. I don't know. If it goes on thick enough, I probably don't even need to do a couple coats. But we'll see. I'm going to brush that on, and then we're going to do primer, flat black, and then rubberized undercoating once all that's done. Always work in ideal lighting conditions with a clean shop and well-organized tools. I'm an idiot. Say, from a cost-benefit standpoint, this was quite satisfying. This was not a huge effort, not a huge expense, but this wheel well looks really, really good by comparison. Again, I'm going to get behind the shock when I remove the shock. I don't need to do that right this second. As you can see, there is plenty of work to do later on with the tie rod ends, the lower control arms, and all of that stuff. I'm not touching that yet because this is not a suspension overhaul. I'm not at that stage in this project yet. But this is really, really good. Once this paint dries, I am ready to put the brake back together, the roller bearing is packed and ready to go back in. And I think we're going to be finishing up this side pretty quickly. So I'm told this is going to be a running theme with this car. Remember how I said I had to do a lot of cutting on that bracket right there to get the caliper on? Well, now let's see what I'm up against this time. So I put the rotor back on, and now I'm going to try to put the caliper back on. So the caliper I'm trying to line up to the bracket, and look what's happening. I'm hitting that stupid dust shield. So now I have to cut away a significant amount of this dust shield, which means I got to take this apart for the 50th time. All right, achievement unlocked. I got this thing mounted up, and you see here I had to trim the dust shield. Actually trimmed way more than I needed, but that's okay. It's just a dust shield. Now I also did not fully tighten the bracket bolts. The upper and lower here, this one, you see it sticking out there. And that's because I very well might have to take this off again. And that is because the next step here is to figure out these brake lines. So you see here I have a hard line and a stainless steel line. I'm assuming the stainless steel line connects to this hard line over here and runs back here to the back of the shock tower. And then it goes into this hard line somehow, which means I'm going to have to bend this hard line. Because obviously, it doesn't, yeah. So I have to bend this somehow. Probably need to, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure yet, and that's why I have it just kind of mocked in there, because I might have to take it off. And I don't want to do the brake pads either, because not only might I have to take this off again, but I also need to clean the rotor first, because it's got a lot of grease on it. Well, it's a little bit dark because my batteries are charging, so I can't use my light. But the brake pads are in, the caliper is secured down, and the last thing we need to do is run the lines. I've got the line up here, the hard line, and I opted to mock it up using a piece of baling wire. You see here, these are the bends that need to happen in order to reach our bracket up here. So we've got this side that goes in right there, and then we got this side that goes up here. So it needs to be somewhat approximately this shape. It doesn't need to be exact. In fact, I could probably flip it over. No, I can't flip it over and get the same thing. But this is just approximate. It probably doesn't need to stick out that far, but I wanted to make sure that I have plenty of room for the little tips when I make my bends. So I've got my bender here, and I'm just going to copy this shape. So I've got my template here, and all I really got to do is kind of copy it now that I have this bent here. So I got that, and then right around here I want to do kind of a 90-ish. Hey, look at that. That is a nice bend. So now that I have all bend, I have to remember which direction I'm bending this. Jeez. Okay, let's see how that does. Okay, now this is looking okay. Let's try it on the car. I highly doubt that I nailed it on the first try. But yeah, I didn't nail it on the first try, but I got close enough, and then I could just bend it from here. All right, like that. That's pretty good. Or however it needs to be. That's close enough. So next up I have to install the flex line, but I just realized in order to do that I have to go grab my nuts. So hang on for a second while I go off camera and go grab my nuts. Alright, you see here we have a nut here on this side, and then this is the brake line. So the brake line feeds in, hits the nut on this side, and cinches down into the hard line over here. And it looks like, are we going to have the same situation on this other side? Yes, we are. It's the exact same thing. Okay, I think I know what I'm doing. I mean, I know enough to guess. That was relatively low drama. So we're going to do the other side. I'm going to leave the wheel off because we still need to bleed these brakes. Okay, well, I got to start on removing the passenger side wheel. All I really did was take the wheel off, take the adapter off, take these bolts out, and I'm just going to let everything soak in penetrating oil for a little bit before I start ripping this all apart. While we wait for that, let's take a look at the rest of this whole area that is off camera, and it is off camera for a reason. You'll see once I turn the camera. Oh, that's not ideal. That appears to be structural. That is not something that I can or want to fix today. This is bad. This is real bad. Oh my. So clearly, there's some welding in my future. This is probably a fuel line to make it even more interesting. Yeah. Oh. I think, for now, I'm going to clean this up as best I can. I'm going to put the rust encapsulator on it and pretty much do what I did on the other side of the car. It looks like this was even cleaned up at one point and just never addressed. Too bad he never addressed it, because yikes. So this, I'm going to do my best without having a proper fix. I don't intend to properly fix this. This is way beyond the scope of what I have the ability to do at this point in my garage's existence. Without electricity, I obviously can't run a welder. So this is going to have to be something that gets done at a later date, at an unknown time. When you're wire brushing a wheel well full of rust, you want to know why you should wear a respirator? That's why. Wow. And look at the mess down here. That's about as good as I think I can get it. I'm gonna wait for the dust to settle, sweep all this crap up, and then I'll brush the rust encapsulator on it. So after I got the wheel well painted with the rust encapsulating paint, I decided to move forward with doing the brakes. I didn't record any of it because, well, for one, you've already seen it. You've seen me do it on the driver's side. It's nothing new. But also, it's really tight in there. I can barely even get my tools in there, let alone get a camera. So we're just going to stop here, and I want to show you what I did on the other side because I didn't get to record it. Now is my chance to record it. So we have here the brake disc and the hub. And of course, this brake disc is severely pitted. I'm going to see if I can get it into the camera for you. Are you going to focus? I mean, you can kind of see it there. It's bad. It's really, really bad. So we need to separate this hub from the brake rotor, and I've removed the bolts, but this clearly is kind of fused in place. So I took it over to my press, and since I'm not saving the rotors anyway, I do not care what happens to them. So to press it out, I found that my little steel sledgy fit perfectly. So I got that there. And then to reach the sledgy, I used my impact socket extension. I just kind of rest it on there. And now you just press it down. You don't always want to do what I'm doing But in this case, there we go. It popped out. We are free. And here's the hub. Here's the rotor. The rotor's going in the trash. And the hub, I'm just going to put it right back on the car. I mean, I'll wipe it down, but it's going back on the car. The dust shield is painted and drying. I also trimmed off the sides there because I know I'm going to have the same problem that I had on the driver's side where the caliper didn't fit. And then moving into the wheel well, I have the hub ready to go, I have the spindle cleaned up, and I have the wheel well all treated, all painted, and as you can see, I elected to paint the rusted gash yellow. And that's more than anything a giant post-it note to myself to address this before I do any real kind of driving on this car. I just wanted to make it blatantly obvious that there was something very seriously wrong here. And painting an otherwise black wheel well yellow was a really great way to draw attention to this section of the wheel well. The rest of the wheel well came out pretty nice. There's probably a couple of spots that I need to give a little bit of spritz to, and of course behind the shock I have not done. And then up in the top here, I can't see it from where I'm sitting, but I got underneath the car and I did my best. I might have to do more, but I'm going to have to pull this fender off anyway because as you can see, there's some rust up here, but there's also some rust here and here and here and here and here and pretty much everywhere else on the car. So the next thing I have to do here is grind this bracket. I'm going to grind the backside once again so that I don't mess with the positioning of the caliper. If someone told me to just cut this right off, I probably would just cut it right off because I don't think it really makes a huge difference. But there is plenty of room to, there's plenty of material that I can take off here and not really affect anything. So I'm going to go ahead and start grinding that right now. So when you're doing these 4-piston calipers, you almost have 4 times the amount of work. I mean, not really, but kind of. I've already done this one down here because it was really hard to reach and I didn't feel like struggling on camera. Although, you probably would have enjoyed that. Where's my little wrench? Where's my little wrench? So in order to open this up, I need to find my 1/4 wrench, which has disappeared off the face of the planet. Womp womp. It's gone. Alright, so 20 minutes later I found the tool that I need. So I have the Harbor Freight bleeder thing, the air bleeder. And I have on the end got the little tip. The little tip fits in here. And then so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get it pulling and I'm going to lock it in. So now it's pulling. And I have my compressor at like 30 psi. This way I don't want to overdo it. You know, I just need to pull a little bit of air. Of course, the little tip is going to fall out. Alright, now we're pulling. So I'm just going to do this until I see less bubbles. Although, I don't think that's really going to be a thing because this tip is probably leaking so much air that that's what all these bubbles are. So I'm just going to do this for a while. Well, one thing's for sure, I've succeeded in getting brake fluid all over my hands. So I've gone around both calipers with the tool. Now I'm going to get some assistance. I'm going to have my wife come out and step on the brake pedal, and we're going to do it the traditional way. Well, it's all back together and the wheels are on. But before we put this car on the ground, I want to turn the wheels just so you can hear the horrible noises that the steering rack makes. Yeah, that's going to need some work. A car is on the ground. Everything is out of the way. I did leave that one tire chalk just so that we could test the brakes before rolling it down the hill. And I have the battery secured. And by secured, I mean, of course, it is barely hanging on for its life. Hopefully it doesn't fall and start a fire. So that, of course, means we are ready to test the brakes. So again, I'm going to do a slow speed, not very far test, and just to see if this thing is going to stop when I get it moving. And then if that works, then we're going to move it a little bit more, and then we will take the plunge. Okay, first I want to start by saying I am terrified. I don't have much faith in this car just in general because it is very old, very broken, and very British. But I'm stepping on the brake pedal. The brake pedal feels good. I am going to die of allergies in this car. Let's start it up. We're in neutral. Whatever horrible noise that is making, it is making. Okay. That's forward. That's reverse. We stopped. The seat didn't stop moving, that's for sure. I think I'm going to try it. This seat. Probably should have bolted the seat in. But I think I'm going to be okay. Oh, I don't have side mirrors. That's right. I'm like looking for side mirrors. Alright, one more test going forward. Alright, so the seat flies back, but I think the car's gonna stop. Well, at least I have a Miata to break my fall. I ran into something. I'm still running into something. I'm stopping. Hey, it stops. It stops. Oh, it stops. I'm not gonna die today. Oh. I gotta say, this view of the TR7 in front of the Miata just looks so ridiculous. If you ever wanted to make the Miata look like less of a shitty car, oh, I'm not gonna die today, or at least not from the TR7. That's a good feeling. So here we are, back out in the wasteland with the TR7. Unfortunately, it kind of has to be this way, but it's only for a couple of months, hopefully. And by the time I get it back into the garage, it's going to be so different in there. So obviously I'm far from done with this car. I didn't even get to do the completion of the brakes project that I wanted to do. But now that I can drive it, now that I can move it around on the property, it means that I can work on other projects. I need to get my truck on the road before I can even have a hope of finishing this car. Now that I can move it around the property, I can start to do things like body work. I can start to find trim pieces. I can start, working on the doors and on the paint and doing some rust repair. Some rust repair. No, it's a lot of rust repair. I'm gonna have to do a lot of rust repair, but I can do all of that without having to pull out this motor, or at least I can do a lot of it. So there's a whole lot of things I can do on this car, even though it's not going to be my complete vision, my end game goal for what I want to do with this car. And I think that's actually gonna be really good for my motivation because I can make it look the way I want it to. I can make it feel the way I want it to, even if it doesn't quite drive yet. But we'll get there. There's some expensive things like suspension and then the drivetrain. And those are all things that, yes, I'm going to have to do eventually, but it doesn't have to be right away. There's a whole lot I can do that is on the cheap or even free for this car. And I'm really excited to have that door open now. We're going to call that a video. I do have one more thing that I have in store for this car before I park it for a couple of months. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't want to spoil it, so just stay tuned. It's coming up very, very soon, within the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you don't like what you see, leave a comment anyway. Maybe you still think I should restore this. If you think I should still restore this car, please comment, because we have a difference of opinion. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.